And welcome in to Pressbox Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles of Pressbox and PressboxOnline.com. With me is the old left-hander Ross Grimsley. Ross, how are you doing?
Everybody's good, buddy. Everything's all right.
All right.
Back
I'm
from
going to
Florida.
introduce our guest in just a second. Once I get the business out of the way. Pressbox Live is brought to you each and every Monday and Wednesday evening by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. And joining Ross Grimsley and myself this week is an old familiar face. He worked in PR with the Orioles. I don't think you were ever PR director of the Orioles. Were you, Jeff Lantz?
I didn't have the title, but after Monica Barlow's unfortunate passing, we kind of had a group of us that kind of tag team that role, I guess, for the year. So that was
I thought of her. She passed away in spring training. What's it got to be? It's probably 6 years now.
7 years ago.
7 years ago. It's hard to believe.
February 28th. Yeah.
Hey, I thank you very much for joining us, and it's your new capacity, and it's not new like the last 2 weeks. Your most recent capacity is you're director of communications for minor league baseball, MILB. And first of all, I want to ask you, is MLB to Major League Baseball, I mean, to the baseball teams, is MILB sort of in charge of all minor league baseball?
We used to be until a couple months ago, I guess, when the professional baseball agreement expired at the end of last September. And that was I guess the agreement, you can call it, that basically oversaw the relationship between the minor leagues and the major leagues, and Major League Baseball had some things that they wanted to change and some things that they felt needed to be addressed right away. So when the agreement ran out, they basically said, we've got a new system in mind and we're planning on implementing it. And they have done that. And I'm sure you've seen the realignment. Obviously, some teams didn't make the cut up in the Mid-Atlantic up there. There's a couple teams that are still looking for a place to play now. But, at the end of the day, they did it with the best interests of professional baseball in mind and the best interests of the players. And, time will tell. It might work out for the better.
Did that reorganization of minor league baseball, did it sort of take some of the lead out of your pencil, so to speak? I mean, does MILB still have a kind of an overriding position with minor league baseball?
For the time being, yes. There's about 15, maybe 18 of us that Major League Baseball has kept on as kind of a transition team, they're calling us, to help them figure out what needs to be done for this year and in years moving forward. So we're basically working with them on a daily basis now, trying to get the 2021 season underway and hopefully, with as few hiccups as possible and hopefully keep things going as people are used to seeing the business run.
Before I turn you over to Ross for a couple of questions, so everything I read about the changes it's sort of Major League Baseball had 4 or 5 key issues that they wanted to change in minor league baseball. Would you agree with that? Mm-hmm. And if so, can you state kind of concisely what those 4 or 5 things were that they wanted to improve or change?
Yeah, I think the big one, it was obviously facility standards. There were probably 30 or 40 ballparks out there that they didn't feel were up to professional standards. Mm-hmm. They're probably not wrong in that assessment. There were some ballparks that needed some significant work, and most of the ballparks are community owned or they're city owned, county owned, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And that money to renovate just wasn't there in all those places. And to their credit, Major League Baseball is they took away affiliated ball, but they've done a nice job of going in and putting an independent, making an arrangement for those teams to join an independent league or a college summer league or a prospect league, like they've done in Frederick, and I think they're planning to do down the road in Hagerstown as well.
All right, so facilities is number 1. Travel number 2?
Yeah, the travel. You see all the movies where there's Bull Durham or whatever, and they spend so much time on the bus. Ross, I'm sure you've got more miles logged than you care to remember, but yeah, if you're looking at it objectively, the bus rides were too long. I mean,
Yeah.
you have the South Atlantic League stretching from Lakewood, New Jersey, all the way down to Rome, Georgia. I mean, those teams were literally driving past 20 other cities
Where
to go
there's
from that
ballparks.
city, from that city to that city. So there really needed to be some significant realignment, and that could have happened either way, whether we stayed in charge or if MLB took over. But the Major League owners and Major League Baseball have a plan in place, and that's the way it is. So
Number three,
it'll be good for the players.
would number three be nutrition and things of that nature?
Absolutely, yeah. Even the last couple of years, we've really seen a lot of teams are bringing nutritionists to the minor leagues. You see it in the major leagues quite a bit. The teams will travel with a nutrition person or a coordinator, food, nutrition coordinator. But minor leagues, it's really starting to go into the minor leagues now. And look, when a lot of these minor league stadiums were built, as Ross can testify to, they were built for a 25-man roster, a coach or a manager, a hitting coach and a pitching coach and a trainer. Well, now those teams are traveling with 28, 29 players, a pitching coach, a hitting coach, manager, a bench coach, a strength and conditioning coach, a trainer, a nutritionist. I mean, a lot of our clubhouses weren't built for 30 plus people. They were built for less than 30. So it cramped up a lot of places and made a lot of renovations necessary. And some of the communities just don't have the money to pony up and make those renovations that were needed. And it's unfortunate, but it's these guys. These guys are professional athletes, and they need to eat like it. They need to recover like it. And it's hard to recover from playing 7 games in 6 days or whatever, and then riding a bus for 12 hours somewhere in the middle of the night. That's not conducive.
Is the last part of the equation, Jeff, and then Ross has got a couple for you. Is the last part of the equation simply that Major League Baseball didn't want their clubs to have to underwrite players that they may feel really don't need to be in the pipeline of being paid by MLB teams, that there's too many players?
Yeah, I mean, it's since the beginning of time. There's the old saying: you've had to have non-prospects for your prospects to play against.
Right.
Well, that's still true today.
Yeah,
but you don't necessarily need the short season leagues.
Okay.
When guys can play college and then go play in a summer league, you're going to develop maybe not quite as fast with against professional players, but you can certainly develop in another wood bat league as an amateur.
All right, Ross, go ahead. I know you've been waiting, chomping at the bit.
Those players are going to miss that gas station food at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You can.
You love that, right?
Wait, they're missing out on some.
That's not good.
Rotisserie hot dogs.
Yeah, I thought that was good for you, right?
No, absolutely. With the fries and what have you. Anyway, Jeff, hey, the clubs before, they had the PDC, the player development contracts. The affiliate of the club paid for the coaches, the players, the trainer, and what have you. What is the equivalent of that now? Do they have a PDC of some type? Is the major league clubs paying for everything now, or how is that working? Because I know some of the lower minor league teams that don't have the big drawing power and stuff are really, and it's been almost a year and a half, 2 years. Yeah. They haven't got a penny. So what are these teams going to do, and what is how's that working now?
Well, we'll start with the new agreement. Basically, what you were referring to was our old professional baseball agreement, where teams would sign for 2 or 4 years,
right,
on a PDC, player development contract, with a major league organization. Now those are 10-year deals in the new agreement. So it's now called a player development license. So basically, Major League Baseball picked their 120 teams, and and they did they're trying to make everybody like the Orioles set up back in the day, where your affiliates are all right nearby.
Right.
So, the Orioles had a really, really good setup back in the day with that, and still do. But so basically, those are 10-year agreements now, which does a lot of things. It promotes stability for the minor league teams. If you're trying to get money from the city or county for renovation, saying that, hey, this team's going to be here for 10 more years, that goes a long way when you're trying to get a couple $1 million from the city or the county to renovate or upgrade something. So that helps the stability factor. The fans know you're not going anywhere. They know that, Bowie's going to be an Orioles affiliate for the next 10 years. So just the continuity and everything involved with that, I think, is important and has been solved with a new PDL deal. Tell me the other part of that.
Oh, well, I was just trying to, find out, because I know certain amount of money went for this, certain amount of money went for
Yes.
that. Is that similar now, or has that changed? Like I said, is Major League Baseball footing the bill for everything?
Yeah, I believe the major league teams are now going to pay for all the bats and balls. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yeah.
It used to be a fraction. It was
Right.
AAA teams would pay, I think, a half, and all the way down to A-ball teams were paying like a quarter or a third of the bats and balls cost. I think Major League Baseball is now taking over all those costs. That said, there's going to be some additional costs for the minor league teams. They now have to take 2 buses on road trips instead of
Right.
1.
Right.
That gives everybody room to stretch out a little more when you have to have sleeper buses available. So you can take 1 regular bus and 1 sleeper bus for a road trip. So
Right.
The guys that want to stretch out and sleep a little bit, they can take bus 2 if they want. And
Yeah.
so that'll help, but that's also another added expense. So, and a lot of these teams now are providing hotels for the players to stay in during the season if they want. So, I think there might be a little stipend in there.
In the home city?
Yeah.
In the home. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So they'll get a deal, through the major league team,
right.
for that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think, there's going to be costs that go up for the minor league teams, just like any deal, but they also have 10 years of stability now that they maybe weren't guaranteed prior to this agreement. So
right.
There's a little give and a little take on both sides, I think. But at the end of the day, that's those are the new rules.
Hey,
Yeah.
Jeff, I was reading this article in the Washington Post from about 10 days ago by Chelsea James,
Mhm.
and she referred to an increase in minor league player compensation
Mhm.
as well. But she did it in sort of a percentage basis, and I didn't understand really what it meant.
Yeah, basically, minor league player pay prior to this new deal wasn't great. Nobody was getting rich in the minor leagues. And when you think about the players from Latin America that are sending half of that check home to their families so they can get by, those guys are really struggling then.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with the regular paycheck, cut it in half and see how bad you struggle.
Yeah.
So that's what some of those guys are facing. But a lot of these teams, I know the Toronto Blue Jays were the first one to do it. They increased salaries by 50% across the board for their minor league players. I'm sure that didn't go over well with some of the other major league owners who now have to pony up as well. But I'm sure those players appreciate it, and I'm sure it probably made it easier for them to sign minor league free agents too. But the player pay is going up. It's kind of a sliding scale based on what level you're at and how many years you've been in the organization, things like that. So, but they are definitely getting a raise, which is a great thing.
A lot of teams were different. Other teams had done similar. I know when I was with the Giants, I was with them for 16 years. I know they had English classes, they had Spanish classes. They put the players up in the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Some teams didn't do it. They had meals, even at the minor league level. They had meals before the game and after the game that was catered. And one of the big problems is the players, they wouldn't eat it. They'd be run out eating hamburgers. And that was one of the things I used to tell the clubhouse guy. I said, this is a waste because they're just leaving. But a lot of clubs, not a lot, but some of the clubs did, do a little extra more than some of the others. Because I heard several people make the comment, well, we don't do that. I go, well, they do that here with the Giants. And they went a little bit farther, but several clubs did, several clubs didn't.
Yeah, and the places that did, they stand out to you, right?
Right, right.
So now they're making that kind of the bar, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everybody, you don't go into a clubhouse after a Sunday afternoon game and see 20 pizza boxes on the table
No,
anymore. That's not how it's done.
no.
You'll see grilled chicken. You'll see, you know, all that other health food that I certainly don't eat. But, you know, there's definitely a concerted effort amongst the teams to increase the quality of the food that the guys are getting and making it available, you know, several times throughout the day. After you come in from batting practice, it's not an ice cream cone anymore.
Right.
It's a fruit spread and you know, granola or whatever they think is going to help them recover quickly and
It
give them more
tastes
energy for the
terrible.
game.
That's there.
Yeah. So, you know, it's if you there's teams out there that are really invested in nutrition and in the
Yeah.
health of the players. The craziest place I've seen is the Cubs spring training ballpark out in Arizona. They have in the weight room, right by the treadmills, a Gatorade station where they will wipe the sweat off a guy's forehead, put it into a little sensor or computer of some kind, and it'll say, you need to go eat off shelf 2 and get some of these nuts.
Wow.
Or this
Really?
thing, you need more potassium, so drink Gatorade, you know,
Is there
whatever.
any chance, Jeff, Ross and I can get one of those put in our home
Oh,
where we wipe the
I
sweat
tell you
off our
what,
brow?
when I was in there, they said the only other team that had that was Manchester United soccer team.
yeah.
So
Really?
I got a feeling those are a little pricier than I'm willing to.
I got you.
You know,
They'd be talking about my
know how
Captain
much.
Morgan.
Yeah, that's
Hey,
right.
so Jeff, there were 160 teams in minor league baseball. It's now 120 teams. Each of the 30 teams has 4 affiliates.
Mhm.
We'll get into some other aspects of this, but one of the things that was interesting to me was these 4 affiliates. Um, and now it's just my question, Ross, take over real quick.
Well, one of the things, Jeff, I want to ask you about is the new independent leagues they're talking about with the college. Is Major League Baseball involved with them?
Yes. So you're probably familiar with the old Appalachian League. The Orioles had a team in Bluefield for many, many years. That league is now a college summer league. So MLB is partnering with USA Baseball and basically helping pick players for that league. So it'll be similar to the Cape Cod League, which most of the people up in the Northeast are familiar with. So it'll be very similar to Cape Cod League. A lot of sophomores and guys are going to be draft eligible the following year. So they'll definitely have some good players down there in the Appalachian League. And that'll be a great league for that purpose because you can basically do all commuter trips. If you're in Elizabethton and you're going to go down to Greenville, well, that's 45 minutes away. So you don't need to spend a night. You come back and stay with your host family. There's some really nice little ballparks there, and it would have been a shame for those to go to waste. So I was glad to see that they found a useful solution for those communities to keep baseball.
Ross
These
was
are
asking.
draft eligible players, correct?
Not this year. I think the idea is to have them play in the Appy League as freshmen and sophomores,
Okay,
and then
right.
they'll be eligible after their next college season.
Ross was anticipating what I wanted to ask, and that was the 40 cities that lost teams. We did a Zoom 10 days ago on a Wednesday night where I do my newsmaker Zoom. I had Andy Dolich and Marty Conway on talking about sports business, and Andy Dolich in particular was ranting about what this was going to do to minor league baseball in these poor cities and all. Major League Baseball is working through the creation of these partner leagues with making those other 40 cities have some type of baseball product, correct?
Yes. They've been working with those teams and helping get them placed in a new league, whether it's the Atlantic League, the Frontier League has a couple of the teams now. what's the one? The Northern League, or no, it's called the American Association now, I think. But
Right.
yeah, there's
Is that where Kane County is?
I believe so.
Yeah, I was just
'cause they're
reading
in
in
there with
Chelsea
Joliet and Gary and all those other teams. So
in Chelsea James' piece, she was talking about one of the teams out there in Kane County,
mhm.
and they actually are saying that they're going to present their fans. Although it's unaffiliated, but with better baseball, it's going to be more of a league where ex-major leaguers, a little bit on the older side,
Yeah.
are going to be there, and the talent's going to be between AA and AAA.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment because
Yeah.
they went from being a low Class A team, and Kane County's had kind of a tough. I don't recall them ever being a Cubs or a White Sox affiliate, and they're 35 minutes, 40 minutes away from those ballparks. But they've just been pinched out by other markets that were affiliated with those two clubs. Now, so you go from being a Marlins affiliate or a Diamondbacks affiliate in Kane County, where there's no real tie to the Cubs or White
Right.
Sox, or even the
Right.
Brewers for that matter. You really don't have any regional allegiance to those affiliates. Well, now you get, if a guy like Ben Zobrist decides he wants to come out of retirement, he can go play in Kane County and get himself 100 at bats in a few weeks and show people that he's ready to come back and play for somebody. So
That's
yeah,
kind of the equivalent to what Dan Duquette did with somebody like Lou Ford about 5 years ago. Where
yeah,
Ford had been out for a
Yeah.
couple of years, and all of a sudden he had a place to play.
yeah, exactly.
Jeff, is Major League Baseball footing the bill for any of that?
I think they probably have helped some of those teams with the,
Yeah.
You have to pay a fee to join those
Right.
leagues.
Right.
Now, I'm not the one writing the check, so I don't know for sure,
Yeah.
but I think they were helping with that process because of the fact that these teams haven't had any income for
Right.
15 months now almost.
Who's
So,
going to pay for the staffs? Where does that?
the team will have to pay for that.
The team is going to foot the bill for that. Okay.
Yep,
Yeah.
Yep.
That was another thing.
Mhm.
Was interested in.
So Jeff, you worked in minor league baseball. I know you worked out in Iowa for a while, and you probably were at a couple other stops along the way. One of the building bridges to working in Major League Baseball front offices at any level, PR or ticket sales, is having done it in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
Is this going to this reorganization of minor league baseball? Is this going to hurt a lot of would-be eventual big league front office people, or is it pretty much the opportunities will still be there across the border?
I think the opportunities are still going to be there, and I think it'll help the younger kids out more because these teams that are now paying players, they don't have quite as much money to pay their staff, so you're going to rely on more interns. Which gives more kids an opportunity to get their feet wet in professional baseball. And hey, look, when you got to be there at 6:30 in the morning to pull the tarp before the sun comes up and stay there until midnight when the game and the fireworks are over, you can weed out pretty quickly the kids that are there because it's a job and not the kids that are there because they love doing it.
Right.
Now, but what you're saying about the farm system also working for front office people is very true. Like you said, I worked for the Iowa Cubs for 11 years, and I was the third one out of our public relations department alone to go to the major leagues from Iowa.
Right.
So we had a guy go to the Pirates, we had a girl go to the Cubs, and I ended up going to the Orioles, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it's very true that we had a kid that was an intern for us in our ticket office. We hired him to do just general sales for us, season ticket sales, outfield fence signs, whatever he could sell. We told him to go sell it, and he is now, I believe, the VP of marketing for the Milwaukee Bucks, and the guy that's gotten all this credit for the Bucks becoming such a revitalized franchise. Obviously having Giannis Antetokounmpo helps, but when they redid the court there and made this crazy pattern on the court, that was Dustin Godsey's idea. And those kind of ideas come from spending time working in the minor leagues. And a couple of the guys on Dustin's staff were guys that were interns at Iowa as well. So a lot of the NBA G League teams are being run by former minor league baseball people. A lot of minor league hockey teams are also being run by minor league baseball ex-employees, because a lot of those minor league hockey markets are minor league baseball markets, and they're taking the best people from those baseball teams and taking them over to hockey and letting them continue to do the same thing. It's really the same deal. You just have fewer home games.
Right.
So, not to put words in your mouth, but there's an old expression, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. It seems to me you're saying, let's give this reorganization a chance, because it actually may benefit the game and the entity of minor league baseball over the long run. To judge it in the first 2 months of its sort of inception is probably unfair, isn't it?
Yeah, even this whole year, probably it's unfair in that with COVID, and obviously the season's already pushed back 1 month.
Yeah.
I mean, with the limited seating capacity mandates around the country, I think you guys had Jack and Aberdeen on a few weeks ago, and they're facing a serious issue with the seating capacity there. They're not alone. Everybody else is. So this is going to be a really hard year for a lot of teams. They're just hoping we play the games, and the ticket money that fans spent last year for 2020 season tickets, they're not spending that money this year.
Yeah.
The revenues are really going to be in short supply this year, particularly if they can't open the gates and sell beer and hot dogs.
Really?
Ross, you got a couple more?
But another thing on that thought is, can you imagine watching an NFL game now without instant replay?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
People went nuts when instant replay was brought in, right?
Yeah.
So
good point.
I mean,
Ross, I know you got a couple more, and then I got one or two.
Attendances went down at the major league level the last 12 years. I know after obviously this year and last year, obviously with the COVID situation, but after the season started last year, after opening day, attendance and viewers went down tremendously. What is baseball doing or trying to do to get that viewership back? Because it's a lot of baseball, football, somewhat basketball, stock car racing is up, and they saw Tiger and Brady hit golf balls. 6 million people watch that. But what are they doing for baseball? Because it's there's some issues, and I don't know what the long-term outlook is, especially with the contract coming up at the end of the 21 season. What do you see going on long-term?
Well, I think they're definitely taking the right steps with youth baseball. I think that's the key, is getting kids involved in the game. Where basketball has an advantage, you just need one ball and yourself, and you can go shoot baskets in the driveway, right? You need a group of kids to go play a baseball game in the backyard. You can't just play by yourself. You can hit off a tee, obviously, but that's not playing the game and developing any skills. So I think Major League Baseball's effort with their play ball program has been really good. Their RBI program, the Reviving Baseball in Inner Cities program, has been a big help in getting some minorities and some of the underserved communities involved in the game. All that stuff helps, and that's all going to take place now in minor league cities as well. It won't just be a major league city initiative. It's going to be all over the country. So hopefully you get a bunch of kids involved in baseball, you get them watching the game. I have a 4-year-old son who just started T-ball, and his T-ball team is the Rays, and the Tampa Bay Rays bought the jerseys for all the kids in T-ball. That's a start, And now when we're sitting at home and my son sees Tampa Bay Rays on TV wearing the same shirt that he wears for his Little League games, he's going to think that's pretty cool. And just getting kids involved, getting them watching the game on TV, I think every little bit of that helps. Now you got to continue, participation in baseball. I think I read was up last year by a decent little percentage. So every little bit helps, whether it's me taking his Little League team to a minor league game and showing them this is professional baseball. That kind of stuff helps. Anytime a family goes to a game together and has a good time, that helps. I'm always for, at the end of the inning, that first baseman or the catcher should always throw that last out into the seats to a kid. They're going to take that ball home and they're going to put it under their pillow
Right.
and sleep on it. That helps, right? So anything the guys can do on the field or in the ballpark, that Little League Classic that they do in Williamsport, where the major league players go and hang out at the Little League World Series for a day, and then they play a game in Williamsport that night.
Yeah.
All of that kind of stuff helps. It's we're not going to solve it overnight.
Right. Well, it is a definite issue with kids 12 to 17 years old. They're not as into it as they were once before. And I think the average, the people that watch the games now, the viewers are between 50 and 57 years old. So my question, basically, and you answered it in a way that how are we going to get kids involved in this? Obviously, another issue is not so much the length of the game, but it's the flow of the game. I mean, 38% of the time, it's either a base on ball, a strikeout, or a home run. And that's the highest it's been ever. Yeah. So it's a little bit, and I was telling the story. I mean, how many times have you ever seen a person get hit in the stands in a minor league games? I saw the same person get hit, twice in a game, 3 times and some in Richmond, you got 8,000 people. Yeah. That doesn't happen. And the thing is, they had to put a netting around because the people weren't watching the game. Yeah. So that's.
And part of that is, and I'm guilty of this too. You can ask my wife; she's on me about it all the time. But cell phones.
No absolutely.
But whether you're checking the scores of the Orioles game that night in Chicago, or you want to see what Adley Rutschman did in Bowie tonight on the MILB app. People are looking at their phone and looking at other things. Look, we're all attached to our phones these days, and people aren't always paying attention. But hopefully, the extended netting and all the major league parks will help some of that stuff. But what were we talking about at the beginning of that?
Getting the kids back involved in the games. Yeah. So you can, and I think not having, and you were saying it, you take a group of kids to a minor league game. That's where those 40-something missing teams in those small communities that don't have anything other than that, and those teams, and I've been there. You've seen them. I've spent a lot of time, and those people get very close to Buster Posey that they saw for a brief minute, and he's in the big that. These people are big on that, and I think that's really going to hurt them, and obviously the people that invested the money in it. But how do you get these kids back involved? That's the big thing.
And I think that's part of why MLB has done what they've done, making sure that an independent league team or a college summer league team ends up in those ballparks, so that those communities aren't losing baseball entirely, because they know that it's important, and they know it doesn't matter if you're in Princeton, West Virginia, or Princeton, Virginia, or Bristol,
Boise, Idaho.
Boise, right? So it doesn't matter. Those are still baseball fans. Like I tell people all the time. I used to grow up going to Cedar Rapids Colonels games up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I knew where Billings, Montana was on a map when I was 10 or 11 years old, because that's where the Colonels were getting their players from.
Right.
And I knew that, that's the guy that just got here from Billings. Well, I knew where Billings was because of that. So, I bought a Cincinnati Reds hat because I was a Reggie Sanders fan when he played for the Cedar Rapids Colonels. And when he got to the big leagues, I had an interest in watching Reggie Sanders because I saw him play in Cedar Rapids. I bought a Cincinnati Reds hat and a T-shirt.
Yeah.
Simply because those players that I saw ended up in the big leagues with Cincinnati. And I guarantee you there are people in Billings, Montana, just like that.
Right.
Speaking of places on the map, I have no idea in the world how MILB ended up headquartering in St. Petersburg, Florida, which is where you are right now. Mm-hmm. Is that going to stay the same, or is Major League Baseball looking at finding another headquarters city?
Well, the story behind it is they used to let the president of minor leagues decide where the office was.
Oh, and he lived, that's right. That's right.
It was in Columbus, Ohio for many, many years. And then I want to say it might have been Hank Peters, I think, had some time with the Orioles. was living down in St. Pete and wanted the
Okay.
office down there. So that's where the office moved. And
And that's
over
where
the
it
years,
stayed.
yeah, over the years, everybody figured out that, St. Pete's a pretty good place to live.
Yeah.
So there's no reason to move the office. And they had a nice little setup at the old Al Lang Stadium down in St. Pete.
So the folks that you work with, Jeff,
Mhm.
are they all doing the same things they've done in the past, or has their duties and responsibilities changed?
No, we're all doing basically the exact same stuff that we've been doing. Major League Baseball kept, like I said, probably 15, 18 of us around, basically because we've been running the minor leagues for years and we have the institutional knowledge that can help them
Right.
with the things that they're maybe not sure of. So, whether it's a public relations event or selecting the minor league award winners, whatever the case may be, we've been doing that and they haven't. So they're relying on us to help them along with those processes.
And they listen to you?
So far.
Perfect.
All right. Listen,
We love that.
Yeah.
listen, we really appreciate you explaining this reorganization of minor league baseball. Before I let you go, we alluded to the passing of Monica Barlow 7 years ago in spring training to lung cancer. One of the people that was obviously, and I'm sure you were pretty emotionally devastated, but boy, Buck Showalter was devastated by her passing. You have a brief story to talk about their relationship at all?
Yeah. It's just, I don't know how many women Buck had worked with in his career in a public relations director
Great point.
position.
Yeah.
I think it was something new to him. I know he had John Blake in Texas and Mike Swanson in Arizona, and Rick Cerrone and some guys up in New York probably back in those days.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Buck and Monica hit it off right away. They're both no nonsense people that they could crack a joke and have a good laugh about something. But they're both very serious people, and I think they got along really well because they had a lot of similarities. So, it was certainly a sad day when we got the call. It was the day of the first spring training game in 2014, and
Yeah, I remember.
and I know Jay Moskowitz in our department was on the trip that day down to Port Charlotte, and he said all the media people basically found out as they were driving down there, and he said everybody was just a bunch of zombies in the press box. Nobody was talking. Spring training press boxes are always
Kind of a cheerful place.
Yeah,
because everybody's in a good mood.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was probably one of the worst days of spring training. And the thing that I'll never forget about that day is having to call some of the other teams because Shannon Ford with the Mets was their PR director, and she was also battling cancer, and her and Monica had a good relationship. And Melody Yount in St. Louis was a PR assistant there, and she had been battling some cancer too. So having to call the PR directors of those teams to tell them that, they need to break the news to them, those are some really hard phone calls to make. And
I bet they were. But
I'm glad I wasn't the one that had to tell them.
Your story about Buck, because it's really one of the key things that was really a growth for Buck Showalter to have accepted working with a woman in the front office and a person that he had to deal with every single day,
Yeah.
And Monica was respected in that way.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure when Buck came in, he wanted to know right away who's the PR director, and they probably told him it's Monica, and
he probably
and it's going to be Monica's way.
Hey, you still talk to Phyllis Mirage at all?
Absolutely, all the time. Yeah.
Please tell her I said hello.
Will do.
I hope you guys, the whole staff there, doesn't have to re-interview for jobs because you're a pro's pro, Jeff Lantz.
I appreciate
really
it, Stan.
appreciate coming on tonight. Okay.
My pleasure. Anytime. Happy to join you guys anytime.
We'll talk to you down the road. Want
All
to
right.
thank everybody. Ross, you and I will talk about what we're going to do next week. We might pivot back to an ex-Oriole next week.
Yep.
But we'll let you know that PressBox Live is brought to you by C3 American Exteriors. Go to their website at c3america.com to get a brand new roof for just the cost of your insurance deductible. Reminder, our Wednesday night Zoom this week will be Thursday evening at 6:30, and our guest is going to be the owner of the Baltimore Blast, talking about the details of the Blast coming back into action next October, November. For Ross Grimsley and Jeff Lantz, I'm Stan the Fan Charles, and we'll see you down the road.